Well, hello, my name's Stuart. I'm a maker, collector, restorer and player of musical instruments of various sorts. I'm trained at London College of Furniture in stringed and string keyboard instrument manufacture. I tune pianos, restore pianos, make guitars. I've been making instruments since the late 70s, and in this video I'd like to discuss the development of the Selmer saxophone. Selmers have done all the major development over the years, but the saxophone was actually invented by a chap called Adolf Sax, who had a firm in Germany, and was later taken over by his son, and then his son moved to Paris to work for Selmer, who's opened up a factory to make saxophones. And his first saxophones they made were actually Adolf Sax saxophones before they brought out their own models. And this is an Adolf Sax saxophone that's come from the Selmer plant. It would have been about 1920. Selmer started making their own models about 1922. The first model was called Model 22 for the year. And if I get my facts, if you buy a saxophone, you'll get this sheet of facts for all the models, and there are about 15 models between these two. And this one has a serial number of 443. And if you share that with the alto saxophone, if you split it down the middle, it means there's just about 220 of these made at a time, so this is incredibly early. A very good example. There's not any examples of the saxophones that came from the Adolf Sax plant that any are known about. They've all sort of disappeared over the years. If there is any out there, they belong in a museum. So actually this is quite an important instrument, and it's been restored over the years, very well looked after, been quite well played. The strap hook is nearly worn all the way through, but it's lately been restored to a very high standard, which won't be the first time it's been restored. It's probably been restored several times. It's been re-lacquered. They used to do that in the old days, and it's a nice smart instrument. I've played this quite a lot, because I have my signature, and got to know it, and it plays very well. I don't have any issues with it. It's quite consistent. The intonation is good enough, and it plays, top to bottom with a lovely sound. Over a century and a quarter later, almost, we get to our signature, and this is 2024 this came out. I've only had this one not so long. It was I bought this after it's just been shipped from the factory to the saxophone shop, so it's a very new saxophone, the very latest from Selmer. The top of the range it shares with the Supreme. They're both just as good. It just happens the Supreme's a bit more expensive because they did a lot of R&D work. This is a development from other instruments, as the Supreme is completely designed from scratch, and of course you're paying a lot for the R&D, but this certainly doesn't play a second fiddle. This is just as good. It's slightly different. The Supreme is more of a classical instrument, and the classical players love it. This is more suited to the jazz players, and they're all endorsing it. Well, it hasn't been long enough for them all endorse it, but a lot of people like it. So what's the difference? Over 750,000 saxophones been made between this one and this one, 15 different models. So I mean, you just look at them, and the untrained eye, they look the same. When you think about the motor car in that period of time, it's sort of it's changed by so much you wouldn't recognise it. I mean, it's just and look at other things, how they developed over the years haven't changed that much. But when you think about Stradivarius violins, the violin was perfected by Stradivarius over 300 years ago, and they haven't changed it since. Nobody dare change it now. It's established. So you know, the sort of development of the instruments, sometimes, you know, contemporary instruments don't necessarily get better. Well, you know, the idea of this video is to try and sort out whether they've really improved the instrument or the old ones are still as good. There are a few major developments. Selmer did all the innovations and all modern saxophones based on Selmer saxophones. So what went on? Well, I can't go into all the details, this video would just be too long. But in 1934, Selmer came up with a saxophone called the balanced action saxophone, which is sort of the biggest innovation in saxophones that period. And the balanced action was basically all about the ergonomics of the playing of an instrument, which is very important, because if you can't hold an instrument properly and you're not comfortable with it, you're not going to get the best out of it. And if I show you on this one, the balanced action, difference is, if you notice, all these are in a straight line. And you notice the key touches, they're exactly sort of parallel to each other. When they come up to the balance action, they decided, I can show you on this one, they've actually offset the tone holes. See, down to about there, they're all in a straight line. I don't know if you can see, and suddenly over here it's slightly canted round, which gives you a slightly better playing position, more comfortable. If you're playing for long periods, you'll probably notice it and you'll be more comfortable with it. And I think the difference between a lot of the modern saxophones and the older saxophones, the ergonomics and the comfort of playing. This was quite a refined instrument, as you'd expect after that period of time. Very nice instrument, but has it improved that much? I mean, the only other improvement, very small improvements. The mechanism on these later ones are a little bit more reliable, and one of the other changes, they've changed these pads over to this side. I mean, if you're sort of playing a saxophone like this, as a lot of people do, you don't want the pads on this side. So you notice it's all on one side. This also makes it less fragile. If you want to put the instrument down, you put it down on that side. Also, when you're playing, you don't have that problem. So some people play it like this, some people play it like that. These two instruments, I won't go into them in too much detail. I'll set them up with the sort of different mouthpieces. Originally this had been played with the sort of classical style mouthpiece, which I've set up here with a Selmer mouthpiece similar to what would have been around at the time, which classical mouthpieces had quite a small tip opening and produced much purer sound than the later saxophone mouthpieces, which have a wider tip opening. This one's a Selmer concept, and here we've got the 10M Showtime, which is sort of very modern mouthpiece, modern ligature. This is sort of more traditional ligature, and I'll try and show you the difference. You'll have to bear with me because they're so different. I sort of you'll have to excuse any sort of mistakes I make. I do these videos in one take, so if there's a mistake, I'm sorry. I'll just roughly show you what they sound like. So I think I'll leave it there before I make a fool of myself. Yeah, nice. I think the sound is very horn-like. It's nice clean sound with just a little bit of edge to it, which is really nice. I really like that sound. At the time, this would have been sort of the best instrument you could buy. I mean, this is really was the top of the range, and I believe it still work well in and sort of any setting today. It's that good. It's the way Adolf Sax would have wanted it to sound. There's a lot of fashion in music, and people like to change the sound, and the sound has changed through the years, especially with amplification. Where people want to play in sort of amplified bands, they want something a bit louder. This is certainly a bit louder and more contemporary sound, which whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, well, that's personal preference really. Sorry about that bottom note there. It's very different from that one, but hopefully you get the gist of it. I don't want to make a shootout between these two instruments. I think that would be disrespectful, and I'm very proud to own two such instruments, which is so far apart in time scale. It's what makes musical instrument collecting so exciting, and really, at the end of the day, is this one better than that one? I'm going to go for a quotation that Henry Ford came up with. Henry Ford of the Ford Motor Company. He says, "If it ain't bust, don't fix it." If it ain't bust and it doesn't need fixing. It sounds gorgeous. He plays well. It's just a matter of, you get any sort of instrument you have to get used to, and once you're used to an instrument, sort of begin to wonder what all the fuss is about. This is more refined. Should probably suit a sort of session musician. Has to get everything absolutely right, and of course it works well with an audition panel. If you come in with a nice modern Selmer, it's going to go down well, and anybody who likes contemporary music. But for the people who like vintage, they're going to like this one. They're two different instruments. You can't say one's better than the other. I think it would be disrespectful. And on that bombshell, I think I'm going to have to end this video. So if you have any comments, I mean, if you like the video, or even if you don't like the video, please comment and press the like or dislike button or subscribe. It all helps. And I've got a lot more videos to make, so thank you very much and goodbye.